Hi, and welcome to another fresh season of Molim Kepepeo. Thank you so much for your patience while we were away. I got several of your messages of listeners asking when we will be back, and guess what? Here we are. This is the third season of this podcast, and today we start by celebrating our mothers and motherhood in general. By the way, have you already gotten your mom a gift for Mother's Day? Alright, well, if you haven't, listen to the very end of this episode because we have the perfect timeless gift idea for your mom. So my special guest today is a superwoman that I met some time back through her husband and his family. This lady has several lessons we can learn from her, but today in particular, we shall have a conversation about her new project and her motherhood journey. So without saying too much, let's dive right in. Hi! Thank you so much for joining us today. Please introduce yourself and tell us something about who you are so that we can get to know you a little bit more.
Hi, my name is Shiku Karobia. I am married, a wife to Karobia Njogu. Together we're raising 5 boys. And my full-time job currently is homeschooling them, something I have been doing for the last 6 years. We are doing 7 years of marriage this year. Professionally, I am a trained accountant. And I have worked in the banking industry. Before I resigned, I was in the banking industry to get into the homeschooling. That's what I've been doing. In a nutshell, that's who I am. First of all, happy Mother's Day to anyone listening. It's a very interesting season for me. I could almost say it's the first time I feel like I'm really identifying with Mother's Day. Before, it was always just another day, you do the obligatory thing, of saying Happy Mother's Day. But this year feels different for me, and that's because of the project I've been working on. My friend and I, she's called June, we've done a book called My Remarkable Mom. It's a bonding journal between mothers and their children. The idea came up in 2020 when I saw some journals that June was working on, but she was not working on them for the Kenyan market. She was not publishing locally. She was publishing for Amazon. So I saw some journals that she was doing, relational journals, but they were more the fun kind for teenagers and young people, like just asking your mom fun questions like, what's your favorite food? What do you like to do for fun? And the moment I saw that kind of work she was doing, something clicked in me that this could be something we could do. And especially for adults, why can't adults do something like this on a serious level? And that's something that we got into a conversation in 2020. Let's do something that challenges our relationships with the people around us. And so definitely mothers are always the place to start.
Okay, that's a wonderful introduction, Shiko. Thank you so much for that. So tell us, what is My Remarkable Mom all about?
Yeah, so because it's a bonding journal, so you start, by asking questions, and how we do it is that we talk on phone. It can be a Zoom call, it can be a date, it can be when we've gone home to visit that I ask all these questions. My relationship with her before was always very, a call for 5 minutes. How are you doing? How are the kids? Mundane. I mean, there's some mundane that can even be interesting, but this was like just, we know those relationships, I was just calling to say hi. How is everybody? I'll ask how is dad, and yeah, they're fine, you know. But now, since we started doing the book together, it has been very interesting that we can even talk for 2 hours as she's telling me her life story. And one of the things I've actually been pleasantly surprised by, well, I've always known this, but this is like seeing it on a whole new level, is that my mom is actually very funny. Like, she's hilarious. So I laugh a lot when I'm talking with her, just the way she narrates her story, and she does it so effortlessly. It's like, oh, I was wondering when you'd start asking me questions. So it's been so nice talking with her. So the journal starts with a family tree. It asks questions on the childhood, growing up. It goes to education. It goes to work, life, and business. It asks about community and faith. There's even a chapter on the historical environment. So there's a chapter that asks questions like, what do you remember, about our first president or second president? What have your parents told you about colonialism or how they lived? And you're trying to really get history. What does she remember about the world when she was growing up? You know, those things that you hear. Oh, we bought bread. We used to buy bread for, I don't know, 70 cents. Rent was 7 shillings. Like, what was that life? So it's trying to capture all that, and you write it in the book. It even has sections for putting photos. So it becomes a memoir, it becomes a biography, it becomes something that can be handed down for generations. I keep giving this example anyway I'm talking about the book, that today, if you wanted to know about any famous musician that you've heard about, Whitney Houston, just Google her and you'll get to know anything that you want to know about her. But for me, if my children ask me about my grandmother, I would have no information to give them. Very little, besides her name and what I remember about her vaguely when I was growing up. Besides that, I couldn't tell you what kind of person she was. And the older we get, the more our memory, is suppressed on some things in life. You forget things. And so recording and transcribing and all this is so important to pass down information for generations. And that's the inspiration behind this book. Bonding, healing. We grow up angry with our parents, feeling like, oh, they should have done this, they should have done that. Until you start your parenting journey and you realize it wasn't as easy, as we thought. And so because of that, it's been such a tool to help with healing, with bonding, with strengthening relationships that are already thriving. It's that for those that are thriving, recording is important for generations to come. And so it's been such a good, beautiful journey to knowing my mom. And so for me, this year, Mother's Day is very emotional, actually. Before, it was always, I'll text her because I don't want her to feel like, oh, other people have children who like totally love them and care for them, and my children are just not saying anything or appreciating me. So this year is different for me for that reason.
So, what actually inspired you to come up with this book?
For me, the inspiration was my relationship with my mother. We've not always had a close relationship. And this looked like something I could use to improve my relationship with her. And so we started developing the concept of what would this look like? Where would we even start? And so the idea was to get to know somebody. What if you wanted to know somebody today, writing their story, who they are, because as we are, we are a sum total of our choices, our choices or choices made for us. When you're younger, your parents make choices for you. So we are a sum total of choices. And so start at the beginning, where does she come from? Who's her family? How many siblings? Where did they live? And so we developed the concept chronologically, investigating her life from when she's young up to now. And it's questions about childhood, it's questions about her education, where did she go to school, what were her experiences like, her work, her single life, getting married, parenting us as her children, just dissecting all of it up to where we are today. So it's been quite the journey doing that book, because unfortunately in the process of doing it, for June is a trained psychologist, my co-author. She's a trained psychologist, and for her story is different. I mean, she, at the time of us doing the book, was having to be a caregiver to her mom, which is even how she started doing the online work, because she had to resign her job. She was working at KPMG at the time, when her mother was diagnosed with cancer. And even her grandmother was diagnosed with cancer. So it's like two generations of family dealing with cancer. And so she had to take trips to India, and that's how she started doing the online work, doing the journals. And unfortunately, in the process of us having this conversation about the journals, her mother and even grandmother died. And so it put a pause on the project. And then it's just been a roller coaster of many things. So that was 2020, but we launched the book in 2022, December 3rd, at the Kenya National Library. So at some point she was ready to pick up and keep moving. So it's been an interesting journey writing this book, because it has really helped our relationship, my relationship with my mother.
I think something that would be interesting for us to know is your motherhood journey. How has it been? And how did your childhood affect your parenting style right now?
So my own journey with motherhood has been so interesting. I keep making reference to Mother's Day because this year I feel like my responsibility is to appreciate all the mothers around me. I admire what they do, how they parent. I never think of myself as someone who needs to be told Happy Mother's Day. It's like it doesn't click. It feels like wale wamefika mali, when you have grandchildren, it's like, all the best. I mean, you're the ones you're looking up to. They're the queens. They're the super women. But my own journey of parenting has been very interesting. As I said, my husband and I are raising 5 boys. When we got married 7 years ago, my husband had been widowed for 5 years, and so we got married when we had 3. We instantly started raising a family of 3 boys. Yeah, so he had 3 boys at that time, and so I have had now 2 since. So our oldest is 19. So I have been parenting teenagers and doing diapers. So that's been very interesting. It's difficult to talk about parenting on one aspect, because my parenting journey is very dynamic, depending on which side you're looking at it from. That side of trying to bond with the older children. I'm their stepmother, trying to learn how to actually parent from the younger ones. One thing I always tell my older boys is that they made me a mother, but their brothers are the ones who have taught me motherhood, starting from scratch, the diapers and everything. These guys, I found them when they were talking, they were doing schoolwork, they were reading, I picked up from somewhere. So these are the guys and the ones who I'm learning the whole diaper, losing teeth. In fact, there's a time I was like, something I used to struggle with, and I used to think, am I going to survive? Is when they get to an age where you're losing the diapers at night and you're having to deal with, oh, child, someone peed in bed. I was like, oh my goodness, this is something I'm going to have to deal with. Can you imagine the things that we are afraid of? And then, so now my 2 boys, it's very interesting. One is, he's turning 6 this year. The other one is 3. And so it's interesting that they have not gone through that thing of being in bed. When we put diapers, it's very rare that they'll pee in bed at night. So it's so interesting that the things we fear, then you realize what actually to be concerned about is something totally different. So my parenting journey is like a whole other conversation, but it's been interesting to grow if there's something parenting does for you, you grow. You may be raising children and they're growing, but you grow, you change, you learn so much. You're always in school yourself. And so that's what it's been for me. So I'm very grateful to God that it has been a transition that I can say God has been at the center of, because our boys are very close, all of them. And so I thank God for that. In fact, it's very recently that I was thinking to myself that one day I will have to have a conversation with a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old to tell them, actually, I didn't give birth to these 3 older boys. Maybe they'll figure it out. I don't know, but that's a conversation we'll have to have at some point. Every so often, I remember that. But in terms of parenting, it's been quite a journey. We are good friends. We heckle. I'm so grateful. I do not take it for granted, the kind of family I have. And I feel like I prayed this family into existence because I've always desired a close family, Even as I said, like with my own mom, it's now that we're trying to develop this relationship. It's not always been there. I'm an only girl, the oldest in a family of 3. And so you'd think my mother and I would be best friends, but now is when we're really developing that friendship, and getting to know her now is so fascinating for me. So that's my journey.
So, Shiko, please share with us how one can find you in case you want to get the book or in case you want to get more information about it.
Yeah, so in terms of the book, if I could get back to that, so the book goes for 2,500. You can order it from us. So the project, we are hoping to do many books. And so My Remarkable Mom is the first book. So we're calling the project Historietu. That's HII story. So it's a clever play on the word history on one end and story, just saying this story. So we're calling it Historietu. So we're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter as History. So you can order from us. The book is on Nuria, Africa Lifestyle Hub. Is a shop at Sarit and Village Market. We have raffle books. So it goes for 2,500. It's a perfect gift for Mother's Day. I mean, when you think about Mother's Day, you want it to be not just one day. So this is something that you do. You can even give yourself a target of, from this Mother's Day to the next, I will have finished this book. So on one end, I'm doing the book with my mother, and on another end, I'm doing it with my children. So they are getting to know me on one end as I get to know my mom. So, and for them, my 3 older boys actually, I have been encouraging them to write their mother's story, because I'm almost sure there's a day that will come that they'll really want to know and be curious about their mother, the woman that gave birth to them. And so I keep telling them, I mean, their grandmother, their maternal grandmother is still alive, and their aunties are there, their friends. There are so many people who can give them snippets of what kind of person their mom was, that they should collect stories and keep a scrapbook, using My Remarkable Mom, have whatever information they can get about her. And so I've been encouraging them to do so. I'm writing my own story for my younger children. I mean, as we do life, God giving me a long life, they'll get to know these stories from me. But if not, I mean, I'm in the process of writing my own story, so they'll have it. I mean, life is quite unpredictable. So write your own story, write your mother's story, write your friend's story. In fact, I'm realizing, because of how relational this book is, it's actually difficult to just sit and write. So it helps to do it with somebody. So my friend and I are actually doing it. Even June, we just said, let's do a story for each other. Ask me the questions and I'll write them or answer them. So that has been very interesting.
So again, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you gracing our first episode of this 3rd season. But before you go, please give us your parting shot.
So the thing that I'd like to finish with is just to say, it can feel like it's difficult. I mean, like, I've always felt out of place, with my family, because we're not always close, we're not talkative, and I've always found I'm very relational and emotional, and I get intimate very quickly with people. So, and I felt like with my family, it was not like that. And it felt very, very difficult growing up, feeling like you're different and almost being mocked or looked down upon because you're a certain kind of person. You're not fitting the mold of what this family is. You feel like you're sticking out, like a sore thumb. Fight for it. I have prayed for my family. I prayed into existence my current family. Do the work. Invest in a relationship. My friend June, the one, my co-author, the one we've done the book with, one of the things she keeps saying is that she has this very grim, sad video of her mom towards the last days. And I know this is her story to tell, but she tells this story all the time. So is that, and I learned from her a lot. And one of the things she says is that she plays it over and over again because it's the only thing that she has about her mom. So she keeps encouraging people to, those photos that you feel like you're taking too many, then there's nothing like too many photos, too many videos. Keep them because you feel connected in some way. So she keeps looking at these 2 or 3 photos or listening to this or watching this one video, just trying to connect with her mom. And so for me, I'd say the same thing. No matter how difficult relationships are, it's almost as though as long as you have those people here and now, not all is lost. Because when they are gone, that's it. They are gone. There's no room for repair. There's no room for I'm sorry. There's no room for I love you. So do it now. Invest the time now. And it doesn't make the pain less. If anything, the more you bond with people, the more you'll feel it. But you'll have given it your best. It's easier to miss something than to regret never having it. So that's what I'd say. And happy Mother's Day. Invest in those relationships. They're worth it. And bye, my remarkable mom.
Thank you and have a wonderful, wonderful week. Please remember to share this podcast and comment on all our topics. I will see you next time. Thank you and God bless.